I appeal? And then they actually approve my appeal. And they say, yeah, we agree with you. This is not hate speech. So it's like their algorithm, because of the complexity of language and how fast it is, and it's just like auto assigning hate speech. And it's like, damn, but then they go back after the appeal and they say, yeah, that's not hate speech. But only when it's just so crazy how like we are in this group think about Islamophobia, but not like anti-Semitism. See the hypocrisy in their position, because really what it comes down to is the law, where, if you kill someone, like that's the ultimate threshold of violating social norms. But yet, well, I think it's really because like people have a bad historical context and understanding of war, and just how much war is involved in human history, how it's like a day-to-day thing that never stops. And but really, if you talk to Emrose long enough and she breaks down her position, she will admit to being a political partisan. Yeah, fuck you, I'm political, bitch. You Zion-Nazi fuck, I am political. Like, but then they'll say they're not political.
The kind of the biggest mind break comes when you confront them like with, and this becomes very funny because they would not easily admit it in a room. But you bring, for example, the bombing of Dresden, and you point to them would have been those people who the Nazi English people who committed the genocide of the Germans, frothing in the mouth and fuck the king or the queen and free the Reich. Oh no, that's different. Because then it was like,
see, this is why I think they will never ever escape their position, because it's really, they don't have a good understanding of philosophy. And so they do what I call history hypnosis, and it takes them out of the now, which is eternal. And thus, that's why it's all political communication all the time. All communication is political. And that's the subcontext to their communication activity, is political speech. But they can't. Yeah. Us. Either you're with the terrorists or you're with us, the anti-terrorists.
But I actually subscribe to that philosophy myself. I think it's either you're with us or you're against us. And I think like if you answer the question wrong about like who Crimea belongs to, you are a Russian. So like it's not that I don't get how it works. I just think that they try to kind of mirror the same valid points to their own nonsensical, complete misunderstanding of how the world works.
Well, from like a communications perspective,
I think they're just plagiarizing from a communication perspective. It's just plagiarism. No. No, actually. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to hop out of here. Ali, God bless. I hope you have a great week. Rabono Shalom. Let's keep the hits coming. Hit him again harder. And I hope Emrose wins the award for the most highly annoying person of all time. Community guideline strike because of something Emrose said, not because of something I said, but the actual conversation was determined to be hate speech. So if you ever talk to that stupid person again, because I know you don't like talking to stupid people, be sure to tell her that Google YouTube believes that what she's saying is considered abusive hate speech and harassment, because she was also claiming Michael Braunstein was sexually harassing her. If you caught her, she tried to get everybody on everything that she could possibly get them on while accepting no personal responsibility, accountability in the slightest. She is a completely brain dead narcissist, as you said, and it has been a pleasure filming this.
In the first part of the tape, the purpose and benefits of meditation are explained. The benefits are immense. The second part is a practical method which the beginner should listen to and use for guidance in his daily practice. Meditation is a technique which helps one to attain the higher state of consciousness as well as obtaining tranquility within. The simple and natural process of directing the mind within enables one to lead his thought and harmony, and helps one to fathom the unfathomable levels of life. With the aid of meditation, the aspirant experiences events. For this, the technique of meditation has proven beneficial to people in all walks of life. For example, a student who cannot concentrate hypertension, ulcers, and other kinds of psychosomatic diseases, meditation serves to relieve the stress. Meditation provides us with an opportunity to restore the harmony between the body and the mind. A balanced mind and sense of inner peace, which is necessary of daily life, is attained. We no longer need to feel the mental and physical fatigue, which is a result of disorganized and dissipated energies. It is through meditation that both energy and perspective are regained. Meditation is not something to be approached anxiously or emotionally, nor is its objective to experience unusual visions or sounds. These predetermined imaginations can bring forth the anticipated instructions that interfere with the growth of the student. The purpose of meditation is not to encourage fantasies, but The mind has the habit of identifying itself with the external objects, which keeps the student from becoming aware of his essential nature. Meditation is a unique method which helps one to establish himself in his own essential nature, which is beyond visions, sound, and so-called psychic experiences. In meditation, peace, happiness, and bliss are experienced. Certain favorable First, one should meditate in a clean, white, and pleasant environment. Second, it is helpful to meditate until a definite time for daily practice is established. Third, it is helpful to perform preliminary exercises for cleansing the nerves and regulating the motion of the lungs. Because of various events during the waking, dreaming, and sleeping states, many people tend to breathe shallowly. Their inhalation and exhalation becomes irregular and disturb their autonomic nervous system. That's to be steady in meditation. To overcome this disturbance, one should regulate an inhalation in each. Now, I give you a practical lesson. Sit on a cushion or a wooden chair. Place your hands on the knees.
Voltage, or it might even be BB, because just like I predicted, we just saw a big chunk of liberal Zionists that were visiting no other than the Emirates. So they're going to say, there you go, we got rid of the crazy ones, now we have the normal Zionists back, we can talk to them.
Any posture which allows you to be comfortable and steady is a good one. Practice the same posture every day so that the posture does not become a source of distraction to you. Those sit on the floor should practice an easy cross-legged posture in the beginning. Those sitting on the chair should sit with both feet apart on the floor, placing their hands on their thighs. And form the habit of breathing with it so that its deep rhythmic movement becomes automatic. When you exhale, let your diaphragm push in and help the lungs expel carbon dioxide or waste gases. When you have completely exhaled, let your diaphragm help in creating another space for the fresh air. Exhale again and inhale again. Your attention should be directed towards the diaphragmatic movement. Exhale at least 5 to 10 times. Now, exhale. Exhale without any pause. Inhale and don't retain. Exhale gently. See that you are not creating a pause. Your breath is smooth. It is not rhythmic. It is not noisy. When you have done it for some time, forget your diaphragmatic movement. Now, focus your mind on the flow of be aware that when you exhale, you are exhaling that air which is extraneous for your body. The air which you inhale is necessary for the healthy body and a sound mind. You are now mentally observing the gentle flow of your breath. If your mind runs here and there, you will find that your breath has started behaving irregularly. That the breath has become calm and serene. The seat of your mind is your brain, which is at the crown of your head. Now allow your mind to travel systematically downward, beginning with your forehead. This is a mental process. Then your eyebrows are coming from your forehead to your eyebrows, eyelids, cheeks, and mouth. Closing the lips, exhale and inhale. Do it again. Exhale and inhale. Your hands, wrists, arms, and shoulders are now free of tensions. Your mind has again come to the throat area. Inhale, you are inhaling the vital energy.
I never thought I would start a YouTube video off with.
The energy you inhale from the cosmos is fulfilling you. You are filling the depths of your lungs with it. Come down to your abdomen. Inhale again. Continue exhaling and inhaling as you gently lead the mind. Vertebrae locating the tension in the spinal column. Gently come up, releasing the tension from the vertebrae until you reach the crown of your head. Again, let your mind be aware of the calm and serene flow of your breath. They interact, they respond to each other. Let your mind make a gentle, conscious effort to guide your breath. Any noise or jerks, bring the attention back to your breath. Your breath is becoming calm and serene. It has no jerks, no sound. It's at least twice a day. That relaxation and the preliminary step toward meditation, which you are seeking, will soon be yours after about 1 month. Develop the practice. The next step is available on tape. Oh, not tied by your thoughts. It is relaxed, yet still and alert. Center. We all are living, we all are receiving the same. Why should we not love each other? All become part and parcel of that center. Oh, my breath is creating problem for me. It is shallow. It should be deep.
Kitover, we're at
The
2 community
whole
guidelines tracks,
being is
so
inhaling.
deep content, more conservative on this YouTube channel now.
Your all
No more
cells are
Clubhouse
floating
live
in
rooms,
the
people
air
using egregious
actually.
speech, so we're
The
listening to
whole
meditation.
being is floating in the space. I am witnessing, but I am not involved in myself. There are different colors, different moods, different feelings. But my mind again is going towards world, think with thought patterns, because you have not arranged your routine well. You have kept many things pending. You are attached to the thing. I will try to maintain happiness, cheerfulness, and bliss all the time. There is peace within.
trade, play with some fake money, lose that shit, learn, hit your bag, and then you be straight, you know.
This shit look dope, though. The way it just look.
Yeah, it get easy, like when you.
It is so bizarre. That make any fucking sense. You know what don't make sense? You know what really don't make sense? That men don't have enough testosterone in their system to be the leaders that they want women to
That's
believe.
bullshit.
That's why
Can I say
society is
something?
set up the way that it is.
This ain't even luck. Let me get in real
To speak.
To get you books Obama did it? Right. But that's not what we're discussing today. I get that, but so I would like to narrow the discussion. I've covered many court cases, bench trials. With a jury, you never know for sure. Bench trials where I was certain I would know what the judge would rule, and I was surprised by the judge's ruling. I would never presuppose that I know that a case such as this or any other case that reached the of govern elections by fiat. Because argument that the president has the right to determine how he spends money that has been allocated by the Congress.
And maybe he will be given that, but the court will also probably say that he doesn't have the right to change elections as a consequence because
but he's not changing the elections. The states are changing the elections.
He's saying unless you...
Okay, let me give you an analogy. Hold on. We're going to go on because this is taking way too much time. But let me give you an analogy. I don't know how the court is going to rule. As a person who believes that the states have the right to set their own election laws, that's clear in the Constitution, I might rule, if I were a justice, that the government has the right to determine where the funds are set.
Just a legal question, or is this something that a president can do because a former president did it, and the former president before that who wore a tan suit did it? No, this is about the moral issue of should the president even be using this as a political football? Yes, highway funds, go ahead, make a political football out of it. But when you're talking about homeland security at a time where we're been in a state of war, a war that it looks like, we're going to be taking a big L for, that's increasing the risk on everybody, every citizen.
But that is that Stephen Cope.
A tan suit? How could you? How could you wear a tan suit? Oy vey!
No sound from Scott.
Well, Gary, wearing a tan suit, in a lot of circles is considered sacrosanct.
All right, testing. 1, 2, 3. Coming in.
Test. Live with the Scott Kent Jones podcast.
Yeah, so I think I'm with you, Gary, that it's not as clear to me that this is illegitimate, right? That the court comes out. Yeah, Marshall made some interesting arguments. I think. And stuff like that. It's just such a rarity. I will say though that right now we do have an election confidence problem. And I think that the president has created this. I think one side of the aisle does have a crisis of confidence in the election system. I mean, we all know that when you put misinformation, disinformation in the system out into the ether, into the culture, it's very difficult.
Oh, stop!
Right? So I think. I do think that it would be interesting to look at the Baker Carter. You remember back in
1975 when nobody was paying attention to nothing.
And the sort of contested, input from state and local election officials and experts. They responded by enacting the Help America Vote Act in 2002 to respond to some of the issues that were perceived as problematic in the 2000 election. However, by 2004, it was clear that HAVA hadn't settled all the arguments around election reform. And so there was concerns about ID, there was concerns about voting technology, absentee and mail ballots, all this stuff we still talk about today. So in response to these concerns, former President Jimmy Carter, former Secretary of State James Baker III, Republican and Democrat, agreed to co-chair a bipartisan commission housed at American University to examine this stuff and to come up with some sensible election reform propositions. So the final report was called Building never had to use voter ID, but they do match signatures. But that is one thing that this commission proposed. Also, they proposed policies to improve voter access for communities, as well as innovations like voter centers and voter information lookup sites. They recommended stronger efforts to combat fraud, especially in absentee voting, and auditable paper backups for all voting technology. So you'd have a paper receipt. Whether it's these or other measures, I do think, and again, I don't have a crisis. I don't undocumented folks voting or there's a bunch of election fraud, but a lot of the country does. And I think on some level we have to respond to that. And something like taking seriously bipartisan recommendations like Carter and Baker suggested might be something we have to look at in order to have a sense that universal. Again, I have no problem.
Of course you got no problem, Scott Kent Jones.
A lot of people do. So I think we have to respond to that if we're going to move forward as a country. Thank you.
Scott, if you go to vote and I went to vote ahead of you, or I went to vote behind you, and I walked up to the election register, the election worker, and they say, "What is your name?" I say, not going to get. How are they not going to catch that? There's a huge danger that if I vote illegitimately, how am I going to do that? It's like,
if you're registered in multiple places and you're in a state that does universal mail-in balloting, they may send 2 ballots, right? Not because it's nefarious, but because you're registered.
Marshall Rankin's busted.
And I registered to vote in New Jersey. I was asked, I transferred my driver's license from Michigan to New Jersey. The rules.
Yeah, which doesn't happen most of the time all over the place. There are tons of places in the United States, in fact, most places in the United States, where the updating of voter rolls is seldomly done. Address form, you just register in New Jersey, and both states have, say, universal mail-in balloting, and they're going to send the ballots to your home. Well, then you get a universal mail-in ballot.
Updated, and then
they harvest the ballots and they submit fraudulent ballots. Marshall Rankin is engaging in election fraud. Busted. Marshall Rankin is busted.
Voting from that residence.
It means they can be registered to vote at that.
I know, but that's
well, there's no way to tell that from the registration. Not unless I had Mr. Smith, Garcia, Anderson, and Gonzalez all in a room. All that you know when you look at the map is that Mr. Gonzalez, Anderson, Smith, and Garcia are all registered. Do this, like, in order to get a mail-in ballot in Texas, you have to be over 65. You have to have a hardship if you're under 65. But at a place like California, where there are universal mail-in balloting, and California does have similar problems to Texas, you end up getting mail-in ballots for the same people at multiple places. I'm not saying that means there's voter fraud. I'm just saying to think of anything more truthful than that. That's exasperating for people who look at the current system and go, well, it works just fine. But the problem is, if a good portion of your countrymen don't believe that the election is, like, if they don't believe that the electoral process is fair or honest, then you're going to have even less buy-in. And if the question doesn't get answered because they're simply factually wrong, their thoughts don't go away. When this happened with Tilden,
Why?
in 1886,
1886.
Count Act after the 1876 election, that's what we had to do. Because a giant portion of our countrymen didn't believe the election was truthful. I'm not saying that's right or good. I'm just saying it was.
Yeah. Well, I know that I heard people say this was almost predictable, that when the mail-in ballots, which got caught,
A hefty one that doesn't believe and their votes matter as much as
the reality. If a number of people believe that mail-in ballots are subject to fraud and that the Democrats are dumping fake ballots in the mail and there's no way to prove otherwise, even though we know that's not true, okay, so Marshall, let's say we go and we make these changes, and a goodly portion of the population now has the perception, even if there's no proof that that perception is accurate, that the Trump administration has manipulated things so that the Republicans now we have a perception, even
you
if
don't
it's
have to
not
make
true.
that up. Parts of the Democratic Party have been arguing that for 8 months.
Right.
Now,
So
a year.
right. So there's a perception, and you just said the perception about the elections that the president promulgated that are not accurate have to be addressed because people believe it. Well, now we're going to have perceptions that the Republicans are controlling the election based on the fix that we came up with. Now, how are we going to address that? Go back to the way it was before?
Which all of this goes right back to my Yes, when this happened in the 1870s, it affected the Democratic
I
Party.
agree with you. I got that. Me on it, and I don't want to fight. So I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on because it's not fair. It's not fair to the other people.
We have to pay attention.
I got a crap load of people, and I don't want to talk with you anymore on stage. We can talk elsewhere. There are too many people waiting in queue. It's already 5:55. I'm moving on.
Again,
Alan,
can I just say, it's interesting. I think this conversation is interesting. I mean, I don't want to just sort of capitulate to Trump and the sort of election fear mongering, but I don't think there's. I think this is a solution. Right.
So this is not good governance at all, in my opinion. I don't think we should be fixing a problem that doesn't exist. If the problem exists, fix it. If there's need to clean up the voter rolls in the various states, well, everybody in each state should pressure their state government to clean up their voter rolls. That's a states' rights issue because the states run the elections. And so I don't know what the situation is in Texas. And that's an argument to be made. And I think that's where the president is trying to, through
Also believes.
Okay, but it's not the Democratic Party who's.
No. I'm saying the belief in nationalizing elections isn't just on one side.
I understand that, but in the context of today, oh, for God's sakes, Marshall, tit for tat, quid pro. I will agree that there are cads on both sides of the aisle, and I will agree that everybody is maneuvering for position. But the discussion today is not about a Democratic proposal. Is proposing withholding Homeland Security funds from states that do not comply with his vision of how elections ought to be run. So when it's the Democrats proposing it, I don't want anybody to say, but the Republicans feel blah, blah, blah. Well, why do you always bring that up? It's not germane to the conversation. We'll get the issue in front of us.
head up in discussions.
I don't
Because
care.
wings of each
I
party think
personally
that is
don't.
true.
But I did not make that the topic of the day. That's not the topic. The topic is this proposal. And I want to focus on this proposal. I don't really care much about what Schumer might think. I care about this proposal. I want to know what people think about it. And I don't extremely important point that he doesn't believe that Homeland Security funds should be held hostage to the whims of the administration, whether it's a good proposal or not. And I think that's really the question here. Let's just say, for the sake of discussion, we all agree that how the Homeland Security funds from states who are reticent to do so?
No.
That's really the question.
No, you shouldn't.
So then why are you bringing up all this other stuff? It has nothing to do with the proposal before us, in my opinion. If I'm missing something, somebody can correct me on it. Alan, am I missing something here? Alan, followed by Brent.
Hello, everyone. Hope you all...
Oh, I didn't know that this Alan was going to talk. Alan, followed by...
Oh, did I jump on the other Alan? Oh, shame on me. What the hell they come up with the Homeland Security in the first place? If I recall it right, after September 11, they thought one extra layer should save us. Now that you're going to cut the budget of that, then what? Who's going to pay the price? Me and you and everybody else.
Things to help elections. To answer your question, Gary, on the top, absolutely, I'm opposed to the idea that you would withhold funds on this basis. This is an insane proposal. I am gratified that my young friend has so much confidence in the court. Suggestions. First of all, I think we really should talk about a federal referendum, just like we have in California. You know, I wasn't a fan of Proposition 13, and I don't mean to get off on this, other than to say it passed. We live by that rule, and I think it changed the way the whole country thinks to some extent about taxes. We should have if the president really feels this way, he should propose a federal referendum process that we could go on. But if we are a republic, we know that smoking is harmful, and we know that based on the aggregate, not based on one specific case. So I think that's a point we should bring up. And I think the other point that we should really emphasize here is that, it's really up to each state. That was the way the Constitution was founded, And voting is a very concentrated activity. It's not like driving across a state line where 1 minute you're in California and the next minute you're in Arizona, and you're on a federal highway. And you know that in that case, or in the case of interstate commerce, of international relations. So to come back to your question, Gary, hell no. And let's talk about some more realistic ideas like a national referendum.
Thank you, Alan. We'll go to Brent, followed by Daryl.
So I would make a few points. I mean, I kind of lean towards that you know, the courts will.
I'm bald, asshole. It's called male pattern baldness.
There's a few points. I kind of base that on
Androgenic
ACA
alopecia
ruling. You know, their case, what they found is that the funding kind of directly related to highway safety, and that's kind of where they drew the line there. In this case, I think they're going to have a hard time making that case. You know, this is funding essentially for counterterrorism, for kind of, you know, emergency preparation grants to states, and is complete to make to ballot things like ballot design and things like voter registration, etc. So I kind of lean towards we're going to be okay, and the courts will uphold and reject this. That said, it just does kind of show you how
This is Marshall Stankin Rankin.
The thought that elections are rigged, the thought that people are nefarious, isn't going away anytime.
We can't make the thoughts go away.
Agreeable Republicans and agreeable Democrats who get together and make rules that don't say that. And I don't know how you push that out of a group of voters who will end up mattering in states. I'll be very.
Don't placate these people.
They vote, they advocate, a lot of them are involved. What do you do with that group of people? Because it's not.
You can't make them stop thinking.
It's not like simply saying they're wrong has gotten us to a place where their influence is irrelevant. I'll do.
Tell me how to make their influence irrelevant.
Like I don't
know how to do it.
Those people and make their views irrelevant. Like I don't. The party doesn't seem to have the power to do that.
Well, I mean, I might, if I were in your shoes, I might kind of start with stopping supporting a party and media apparatus that pumps that information to those voters and pumps that perception to those voters for supporting that. But on a bigger scale, Marshall, you're not going to do much. I mean, this is up to party leaders in the Republican Party and the elites in the Republican Party. The answer to those voters, I would say, is that people.
Brett, we'll go to Daryl, followed by Jules. Hey, Gary, can you hear me? So, it's interesting because to Brett's point, if you remember the big Fox News lawsuit with the voting machines, right? Fox pivoted to this argument that, well, anyone, and this is in the documents, well, this is hyperbole, and if anyone, this is commentary, and it's not actually journalism. The thing with, both, my two friends, Marshall and Scott, it's this idea that, well, people believe this, so what do you do? People also believe that vaccines cause autism. Not true anyway. You can't. You're just going to be beating your head against a brick wall. There's the classroom, and then there's the corner. And in the classroom, I'm a journalist. I just want to let the YouTube mob bringers know that when he said vaccines don't cause autism, he wasn't making a claim. This is a journalistic live stream. Election. It doesn't behoove anyone to spend a great deal of energy and effort in the first place. I don't personally know how to fight that. How do we make him stop thinking? One of Marshall's points that all of these I don't know how to do that. Executive orders, but how do we stop them from thinking? Is a very important thing as well. Yes, Obama used executive orders. Obama. He didn't use them as much as, let's say, Obama. Bush did, or I think he's like 30, maybe 26, 27. But he used his mostly to do memorials. He did some stuff for some social change, and I think some federal spending, but it was, and I'll Google it, but it was mostly about how money is allocated. When you're talking about government taking over elections, that's something completely different, because that's something that can impact every single one of us. And what I find ironic is that when it came to abortion, it's all about states' rights. When it comes to voting, it's the federal government knows what's best for all the states. And this, again, the idea that, he's not malicious,
everyone who knows him will tell you that he carries grudges. If you speak poorly about him, he's going to primary you. If you look at silencing voices who are critical of him, look at what they were doing with the files online. This is why when they first dropped, I was all through those files. I was obsessed. I haven't looked at those files because they're tracking people. He carries a grudge. A grudge, by definition, is malicious. He not only carries grudges, but he goes after. He tries to invoke an army to also carry his grudges. This idea that elections aren't safe or elections are fraudulent, there is no evidence that any election has been substantially impacted by fraud. And I'm in Florida. I'm now in New York. I get 2 mail-in ballots. I would have to just because I receive a ballot at 2 addresses, and that's
plus you have to travel.
Yes.
Down I-95 to vote your second time.
Yes, and that's intentional fraud. And we do have examples of intentional fraud, but there just hasn't been, there's no study that says that it has been to the level where it's actually impacted the results of an election. So this is just, I'm going to throw out some buzzwords. And I'm going to talk, and I'll say it. I don't care if anybody likes it or cares about my opinion. I'm going to talk to the LCD, the least common denominator. I'm going to get them aroused about something they're not going to go and say or look into. Is this true? Because I've hit an emotional pressure point. They're now. How many of these politicians in the past 2 years, as we get closer and closer to the midterms, and as it seems like there may be a change, how many of these politicians that talk about election fraud actually believe it? Meaning they might go on the nightly news and say, well, we have to secure elections, What are they basing this on? Mike Johnson did an interview, I think it was CBS Sunday Morning, and he said, she asked him point blank, do you have proof of election fraud? And he said, well, I don't have proof, but common sense would tell you. Excuse my French, what the fuck does that even mean? You don't have proof, but tells you that there's fraud in the election, but there are people who hear that and will say, well, Johnson is smarter than me, so obviously he knows something I don't know. Therefore, Johnson is correct and elections are fraudulent. I don't know how as a society, as a collective body, we convince people that an untruth is simply not true if they have already chosen to believe it. I don't know how to fix that. I know that you're not fixing it by federalizing elections when the entire establishment
I want about anything, and I don't have to prove it. That's the beauty of a conspiracy theory. What do you think about that? Are you in it with me?
Well,
you want to be a co-host?
Yeah, we should bring back lawsuits. If some guy goes on national television and says that Michelle Obama's a man, there should have been a lawsuit on his doorstep the very next day.
That could be our first topic.
Well, the other chick has us beat with Macron saying that the French prime minister's wife is a man, and she's already getting sued. I would prefer not to spend the rest of my life in court.
Well, I think we should, and I think we should be equal opportunity beater uppers. I think we should. I think we should also talk about the diaper. It doesn't matter if it's true.
Yeah.
I don't have to prove it. I could just say it.
I'd love to get that one in Discovery, though.
People do post that kind of nonsense on social media. They post it, and who's going to challenge them? And so, to Marshall's point, people are going to post that the elections are being manipulated. If you correct, quote unquote, the manner in which elections are held in order to resolve the perception that they are being manipulated by the Democrats, then an equal number of people are going to have the perception that it was, quote unquote, corrected in order to facilitate the desires of the Republicans. Now, both will probably be wrong. Forever. That's exactly what you have. By the way, Abby points out in the chat that Marshall raised. They got together a bipartisan commission, Republicans and Democrats, and they cleaned up the voter rolls. Hello? How about the government requiring states to establish bipartisan commissions to clean up their voter rolls? Would that not solve the problem?
Yeah, then they'd argue. Then the individual states would argue who's going to pay for it, because it always comes down to money.
Well, you know what? We got money for a lot of other things. If it means that you have to throw some money behind it, great.
Yep.
So what? Yep. The cost of one cruise missile will probably cover. Fire. There could be worse things in life. Jules, followed by William.
Hey, Gary, how are you? So I'll try to follow the guy who reads carefully about the Epstein files and doesn't want to talk about conspiracies. But you bring up a good point. It used to be election day, it's election week, election year, election this way, election that way. I mean, other countries can do it, we can do it too. I mean, what's so hard about this? The only problem I see is that both Republicans and Democrats trying to use the laws that has a guy with a Nazi tattoo on. We have people running who don't believe in any prisons anymore. Even if you murder someone, no prison, no lockup, no nothing. I mean, we're a very divided country.
Who's running as a prison abolitionist?
In New York, what's that one? I don't know the woman. The one Mandani is supporting. No prisons. No prisons. No prisons. Murder, no prisons. But are you surprised, Marshall?
From that side of the progressive left, no, I'm not surprised. Prison abolitionism.
I can say hello to you, Marshall. I haven't spoken to you in a while. It's always good to hear your voice.
Always good.
We really, this is a good topic. Voting is very important for our country. That's very split right now. And we can't be fighting over, about what the rules should be. It's got to be bipartisan, and we have to settle it that way. I don't like the idea. Someone brought up the Supreme Court, and I'll end with this. We have a person in the Supreme Court that doesn't know what a woman is. So I hate people like that making decisions for the whole country about anything.
Wait a minute, there's a Supreme Court justice who does not know what a woman is?
Taji Brown couldn't define woman, what a woman is.
No, I will say this. I think it's misused by the right. Like, yes, there was an answer of what a woman is. Given non-answer because typically justices in confirmation hearings are not supposed to give answers that are specific like that.
Did she say that, or you're just...
No. I'm saying that's what people typically do. She responded differently. But typically the non-answers for everybody up to her had been that they had cases in front of them. They would have cases in front of them. She didn't say that.
I don't want to argue with you, Marshall, but it's very simple. All she had to say was biology determines that. That's all.
Yeah, my point is, that's been used as hay on the right. That in my opinion,
it's not Marshall's. It's not Marshall's projection. It is a
it's what he said, but her answer was so ridiculous, in my opinion, and in half the country's opinion, or maybe more than
half the countries don't watch Supreme Court confirmation hearings. And
was his current resignation?
Destabilizing elections is one of Putin's methods of attacking the West.
We have all this fraud, all these people who volunteer every year, all these white-haired retirees at the election centers. They're involved in fraud, We can't trust that.
I've been volunteering in these elections since after Bush versus Gore. I've been volunteering.
Hey, thanks. I raised my hand quite a while back because of something Marshall said about universal mail-in ballots in California.
It was an example, probably not an exact example.
But you don't have to respond right away. So here's what we know. This idea that half, he says something like, well, half the population, I know it's not true. Half the population believes it. So obviously we have to accommodate them, right? Just like a bunch of people think, what was the other example? The vaccine, that Tylenol causes autism, right? I know it's not true, of course, but other people believe this, so we have to accommodate them. That is, as a serious dumbing down of our nation here. And is it like we know where these ideas come from? They come from this administration, and they're not. Have to accommodate them. But here's the thing, Marshall. You added to the stupid shit. You said that in California, people could just like move and re-register, and see that's why we can't have mail-in ballots. It's so easy to fraud.
That's not what I said.
No, you did say that. What are we
No,
going to do?
that's not what I said. I used California specifically. I used California specifically as an example. Stop. I used California specifically as an example where you could move from one place to the other.
Marshall, hold on a second. Hero, please allow Marshall to respond to your proclamation.
I wasn't done with my proclamation.
You can continue, but you just stated something that Marshall said that he feels that you misstated. So let's get through that, clear that up, and you can finish. Go ahead, Bucky.
I'm not claiming. Have two mail-in ballots set up. That doesn't mean the person on the other end fills it out.
That's exactly what I'm addressing that you're on about.
Okay, then please. You had to do the change of address forms always meet?
I am glad you restated what you just said. Good, perfect. So in California, when you re-register to vote, you'll be notifying 0 county so that the voter rolls are properly cleaned up. If it's in between and it's too close and we happen to get 2 ballots sent in, there are barcodes on those ballots, and those ballots are checked. And if one of them votes first, the second one will be cast provisionally, and they will double check it. If you purposely did that on purpose, you are, you could be in deep trouble. It's, I think, up to 5 or 10 years in prison. And states like California have no way to check. This is a problem. This is an open problem. It's not an open problem. Stop saying things that aren't true. That's one way we can maybe help fix these problems.
Thank you, Hero. Folks, we are here Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock New York time, so until 5 o'clock New York time tomorrow. For the next edition of the Critical Thinking Forum, everybody be safe, be well, and peace out.
That was another episode of JohnKitoverNews.com. Thank you for joining us. This is Chicago mayoral candidate John Kitover. Go to ChicagoMayorVote.com right now. That's ChicagoMayorVote.com, or go to ChicagoMayoral.com. You just listened to a debate about election fraud. Like button, subscribe. I hope you've enjoyed this bonus episode of JohnKitoverNews.com. You just listened to stinking, ranking, faking Republican out of Hidalgo, Texas. Such a learned scholar, never graduated college, hates himself for it. But he just loves history. And when he knocks on the doors and figures out all the ballot harvesting opportunities,